as the U.S. still faces a possible downgrade from S&P from our AAA rating down to AA. The New York Times is pointing out how many big companies have already lost their rating, and they don't really care. The paper points out that a more conservative approach may mean higher profits, and borrowing costs aren't all that different. Time to let the Willis watchdogs out. Greg Knapp is the morning show host of KCMO Talk Radio, 710 in Kansas City. Dr. Gina Loudon is the host of The Source in Birmingham, and Matt McCall is the CEO of Penn Financial. Matt, let's start with you. What do you say?
Well, I don't really think it's a big deal either way. But I feel like I should be a host of something, too. Everybody says a host of something. No, I don't think it's a big deal when it comes to the United States. I mean, even if it does get downgraded to AA, I mean, your borrowing costs are going to go up a bit. So it's going to cost us a little bit more when we pay our interest. But if you look at corporations between AA and AAA, as long as you're in that investment grade area, a lot of companies really don't, like you just mentioned, don't have to pay that much more to borrow. And really, I mean, you look at the list of AAA rated countries, we still are the best in there. And look at the list of AA countries. I mean, America is head and shoulders above others that are in that list right now. So I think really you're always going to come back to the U.S. for the highest grade no matter what. We're always going to be what everything's measured upon.
Gina, I don't know if I believe that or not. I mean, all respect to Maddie here, but, it's better to be AAA than it is to be AA.
Yeah,
I guess in title, that theory is probably true.
Go ahead, Gina.
I'm sorry, I thought she went to me. In theory, I guess that is probably true, although the dollar is still the strongest currency. And if you look at it from the perspective, I think a lot of conservatives were asking these questions last week and the week before, Jerry, when we were being told that if we got downgraded, this would be Armageddon economically. I find it suspect this information is now surfacing in the popular media. And I think some conservatives are asking those questions right after the president signed this
Gina,
bill.
I will agree with you, Gina, that the market actually didn't get hit very much with the whole debt issue. It actually fell on economic issues. But to talk about the dollar, the U.S. dollar has actually been in a downtrend now for 10 consecutive years. So if anything, this will hurt the dollar to continue to fall. But President Obama wants a weak dollar because then we can then double our exports by 2015.
You know what I think is interesting here?
Greg,
well, I think this is always...
Yeah, you know what I think is interesting here is if our government was a company, it would have been downgraded a long time ago. When you look at the debt and the baseline shenanigans we play and the Ponzi scheme of Social Security and the unfunded liabilities, there's no doubt about it. But here's why it would be a big deal. And by the way, I agree with our other guest there that says it was Armageddon until now all of a sudden. But if it gets downgraded to AA, there are a lot of funds out there that, by their regulations, they can't hold AA securities. They would have to unload all those AAA ones, that were downgraded to AA. And that's going to impact a lot of people, and that's going to impact our government. And here comes QE3, where we're going to have to buy more of our own debt.
Well, lots of debates over that, over how many funds would be affected, how many money market funds will be affected. We're just going to have to wait and see because, according to what S&P has said, they practically promised a downgrade. So I'm sure we'll be answering those questions all too soon. Here's a story you should know about. After making a surprise and heartwarming appearance on the House floor earlier this week, rumors are swirling that Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords may make a run for another term. Now, Giffords is still recovering from January's shooting in Arizona, but many in her party are preparing for an upcoming Giffords campaign. Greg, what do you say to this?
I say two things. Number one, congratulations to Gabby Giffords. What a great, uplifting story. Who could run against her, really? You're certainly not going to run a negative ad. I mean, if she runs, she's winning, period. The other thing, though, that I thought was very ironic is, remember, Gabby Giffords being shot in that horrible way had President Obama even come out for this civility speech. And yet, during this debate, which she came back to make the vote for, we have Democrats calling the Tea Party Republicans terrorists. We had the president say that they're holding American hostage. We had Joe Biden say that the Republicans have guns to our heads. I don't think they toned down the rhetoric. What do you think?
Well, the rhetoric keeps getting hotter and hotter. What do you say, Gina?
You know, that's an excellent point. I really like that. And I would also say that I hope that if she continues to do so well and we keep seeing her out there like she is, that she can be an example of that civility and that they don't use her in this horribly tragic situation to politicize, gun battles or other battles that shouldn't be politicized based on what happened to her because it was tragic.
Matt.
I think she's going to run, and I think obviously she will win. I just hope there's not any negative campaigns against her because it's going to be very difficult to jump in and say anything about her because she's an inspiration to everybody who's ever known somebody who's been sick and fought back or has been sick themselves. So I think it's a great story and it's what America's about. So I hope she does run.
I hope she does run too. And amazing story from her. Well, guess what wasn't tackled in the debt deal struck this week? Medicare and Medicaid. That's a serious problem because the cost of these programs keep on rising and could top $1 trillion by this year. Gina, what do you say?
You know, this makes me feel like, as a conservative out there collectively with all the other conservatives, we've been screaming into the wind. This is exactly what we were all saying. None of this was really addressed in this current debt bill. And now we've got this debt bill that was supposed to be the salve on the wound of our economy. And we find out the next day, $1 trillion more. It's really not a surprise to me. What's a surprise to me is that this has not been more a part of the political dialogue.
Greg.
Well, you know, the problem with this, too, is if you look at the automatic cuts that will come if they don't reach this super committee agreement, is that they will cut what we reimburse doctors and hospitals for Medicare and Medicaid. Well, already there are doctors who won't take Medicare because they're losing money on these people. It's going to make it harder for them to get access to health care. And guess who's going to pay the cost? It's going to be shifted to the private sector a little bit more for your private insurance to make up for it, or these hospitals and doctors won't make any money. You've got to reform Medicare. It needs to be truly a safety net program, Medicare and Medicaid, and help people throughout their lives prepare for their health care in the future. Otherwise, we got $24 trillion in unfunded liabilities over the next 75 years for Medicare alone. That's outrageous.
Lots of costs, no way to pay for it. Greg, Gina, and Matt, thanks for the help today. Really appreciate it.